It was the moment when time stood still, the moment the fans knew they were going to get a dream match. Rock challenged Hogan and Hogan accepted, two of the biggest stars ever at WrestleMania. This was the first WrestleMania I had ever watched. I had this on VHS and I played it so much that it somehow started to crack. I watched everything on this show countless times, from Goldust and the entire mid-card fighting for the hardcore title, to Undertaker and Ric Flair killing each other, to watching my childhood crush Trish Stratus making her epic entrance. But there was one match that I watched more than any other, the match that might be my most watched wrestling match of all time. GOAT versus GOAT, legend versus legend, icon versus icon, The Rock versus Hogan. It's February 2002, Hulk Hogan, the pioneer of the WWE and WrestleMania, the man behind Hulkamania, was back in the WWF. After 8 long years, after going to WCW, the competition, he was finally back in a WWE ring for the first time since 1993. Only this time, he was wearing an NWO shirt, not the red and yellow. Hogan comes out alone and gets a huge pop and is standing in the middle of the ring just soaking it in. Hogan, Hogan. People were going crazy and you can tell how much this meant to him. People were bowing down in the front row. He gets the mic and says, "You know guys, it feels great to be back in the ring in the WWF." He then starts reminiscing of all the things he and his Hulkamaniacs did together. He says, "We fought the Russians, we slammed Andre the Giant together. And then you people turned on me." And just like that, the mood changed instantly. "Why did you take Hulk Hogan for granted? I wanted to stay here, but you fans drove me out." He then delivered a message to the fans that he wanted to say for a long time: "Kiss my ass." And the cheers became boos. "I'm the reason you people are here today. I built pro wrestling." And then he says that there was no bigger star, past or present, bigger than him, bigger than Hollywood Hulk Hogan. And then all you hear,
"If you smell what the Rock is cooking."
and out came the people's champion, walking with a purpose, and to say the crowd was buzzing is an understatement. Flash bulb and camera flashes going off, The Rock is posing in the corner with his iconic pose, and Hogan just looking at him. Let's do this. The fans started chanting, "Rocky, Rocky." Hogan takes his glasses off because you know he means business, and then so does The Rock, and the fans get even louder. Rock grabs the mic, and here we go. The Rock and Hogan face to face in the middle of the ring. And The Rock has a question. "You actually think it was the people who drove you out of the WWF? Is that what you think?" Hogan tries to reply, "And it doesn't matter what you think. It wasn't the people that drove you out of the WWF. They loved you. They believed in you. And damn it, The Rock believed in you." He then calls him a legend, an icon, and quite possibly the best ever. And then he simply says, "You know, Hogan, you talk about headlining WrestleMania after WrestleMania after WrestleMania. Well, Hulk Hogan, The Rock says, how do you feel about headlining one more WrestleMania against The Rock?" They go face to face, the crowd erupts, and as Jim Ross says, it's as if time had stood still. Two of the most popular wrestlers ever, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, and hell, it's Hulk Hogan. Face to face, looking at the crowd. Crowd is going crazy. First there's Rock chants, and then there's Hogan chants, and then it's back to the Rocky chants. Two icons face to face. Hogan grabs a mic after like a minute of silence and says, "What makes you think you're in my league? What makes you think you're even close to being as big of a star as I am?" The Rock simply shuts him up by putting a hand in his face and says, "It's a simple yes or no." The fans get wilder and wilder, louder and louder. He begins mocking Hogan face to face, and Hogan says, "I accept." It was going to happen. Hogan extends his hand for a handshake. The Rock shakes it, and Hogan says, "Good luck, cause you're gonna need it." Hogan turns away, but Rock doesn't let go and simply says, "Not as much as you, brother." And bang, rock bottom. The Rock bottomed Hogan in the middle of the ring, and Chicago just erupted. What a moment, man. An all-time great wrestling promo. It was surreal. Two of the most charismatic and most beloved wrestlers ever. Two of the best talkers the business has ever seen cutting a promo. An all-time great promo setting up a dream match. The same week, Figure 4 Weekly called it one of the best pre-WrestleMania angles of all time. And then Dave Meltzer also had this to say. Hulk Hogan put on his best mic performance of his career while going back and forth with The Rock to set up the main event of WrestleMania. What at first seemed like a huge match on paper for the biggest show of the year suddenly became a dream match transcending generations, as the two went verbally toe to toe before an entranced crowd in Chicago. transcending generations. It was going to be historic. You had The Rock, the people's champion, the great one, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, and not only was he one of the most popular wrestlers of all time, he was and is one of the biggest stars in pop culture overall. Rock was out here launching the Xbox with Bill Gates, chilling at political conventions, MTV Awards. Wyclef Jean had a song with The Rock called It Doesn't Matter, and the same year he was about to star in his first feature film. He was on top of the world. Everybody knew of The Rock. And then in the other corner, you had Hulk Hogan, arguably the biggest wrestling star of all time, the man who made Hulkamania run wild in the 80s and the 90s, the man who carried the business on his back for years, selling out 80,000, 70,000, 60,000 seat stadiums, the man who helped make WrestleMania. You didn't even have to be alive during his prime to know who he was. No matter how old you are or who you are, images like Hulk Hogan slamming Andre are engraved in your brain as wrestling fans, and these two were going to go at it. WrestleMania, the showcase of the immortal, 67,000 live from Toronto, Canada, in front of some of the most passionate wrestling fans in the world. It was going to be magic. The Rock is on the stage, he's taunting, he turns around to leave, and out comes the NWO. They attack him and The Rock goes flying and rolling down the ramp all the way back to the ring. It becomes a 3-on-1 assault. Hogan is up and starts destroying The Rock with his belt. And then we got the Razor's Edge by Scott Hall. And then Kevin Nash with his jackknife. The Rock got clapped. But that wasn't enough. Hogan goes outside, grabs a toolbox from under the ring, and grabs a hammer and bashes it in the back of The Rock's head. And if that wasn't enough, a leg drop for good measure. Scott Hall counts as The Rock gets pinned by Hogan. 1, 2, 3. A preview for WrestleMania. They then spray paint NWO Too Sweet on The Rock's back. The Rock was left a mess. EMT stretchered The Rock away and put him in an ambulance, and off to the hospital he went. The ambulance was driving away, and then all you see is a huge truck pull up in front of it, forcing it to stop, and then a car in the back. And out of the vehicles, Hogan, Nash, and Hall. Because they still weren't done. They kick out the EMTs, start busting out the windows and destroying the ambulance. The Rock is trapped inside the ambulance. Hulk says it's time to lay the smackdown on his crippled ass, goes in the truck, backs it up, and drives it straight into the ambulance at full speed. Rest in peace, Rock, and shout out to SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. It was more than just a dream match now. It was personal. So March 17th, 2002, Rock versus Hogan, billed as Icon versus Icon, one of my favorite posters of all time. It was going to be magic. The past versus the present, two of the biggest of all time, one-on-one. History in the making. This match also wasn't even the original plan. It was supposed to be Hogan versus Austin, but Austin said no. So my question to you is, which one would you have rather seen? I will always say The Rock, because The Rock and Hogan dynamic was just too sweet. Someone on Reddit explained it perfectly. Their characters match a little better in my mind, both being these larger than life electrifying guys. Consider a moment like Rock and Hogan just standing there basking in the dueling chants. That sort of thing isn't really Austin style, but let me know below what you guys think. Skydome, Toronto, Canada. I'm from Toronto, we don't say the second T. It was time. The screen goes to black and white as the NWO theme blasts, and out comes Hollywood Hogan, and the crowd just cheers him like no tomorrow. Didn't matter if he was a heel or not, the fans missed him, the fans grew up with him, they wanted to see their childhood hero wild out one more time. Hogan is standing in the ring almost as if he's shook by the reaction himself. Hogan, Hogan. See, the thing is, Toronto was always a Hogan city. Dating back to 1986, the big event was held in Toronto and drew 70,000 people, and this was before WrestleMania 3, and then of course WrestleMania 6, Hogan vs Warrior, where even though Warrior was the new face that everyone loved, Hogan still got the bigger pop, and it was no different at WrestleMania 18. The Rock came out and also got a huge pop. It was awesome because it was not only two generations of wrestlers clashing, but also the fans. Rock and Hogan face to face in one of the most iconic wrestling pictures of all time. The crowd going crazy in the background, it was legit electric. I don't know how else to describe it other than the word electricity. They're looking around, the match hadn't even started yet, and you already knew this was something special. And King dropped one of the best lines of commentary of his career here. We never got to see Tyson and Ali. We never got to see Babe Ruth and Barry Bonds, but we are going to see The Rock and the Hulk. They locked up and Hogan just shoved Rock down all the way back into his corner and the crowd just went berserk. And man, they were just getting started. The crowd was going to legit blow the roof off the Skydome that night. So Hogan shoved the babyface down and got cheered like no tomorrow. He taunted and then Hulk knocked him down again with a shoulder block and the cheers for him got even louder. Rock is like, what the hell? That is what's so beautiful about this match. On the fly, they flipped a switch and began wrestling totally differently than they were originally supposed to. We got a masterclass in ring psychology and crowd control because literally every move meant something and it was done for a reason, and that was to get the crowd to react. And the coolest part is how they changed it mid-match. They called an audible and Rock started acting a bit more heelish and Hogan started playing up to the crowd, and it was so natural too. It didn't feel forced and there was no sudden switch. Doing something like that on a stage like WrestleMania, live on pay-per-view in front of a huge crowd, it's a crazy thing to do, and they pulled it off. So Rock started pushing the referee away and taunting Hogan to get even more boos, and slowly but surely Hogan went from the bastard heel who hit and run the Rock to, oh no, poor Hogan. Rock did a spear and did some ground and pound, so untraditional of the Rock, and he started mouthing off to the crowd, and they were just jumping in the air, just basking in it because they knew they were watching something special. The crowd never slowed down. Usually for matches, the crowd is crazy in the beginning and then it slows down. Here, no. Hogan had him in the corner just raining down punches, soaking in the crowd reaction, and the crowd was hanging on every punch, counting along with Hogan. They went back and forth and Hogan slowed it down, but the crowd didn't slow it down. They brought inside, they brought outside, they kept it so simple. No crazy moves or flips, of course. I don't think Hulk Hogan can do a flip. Just two men using simple wrestling to have a crowd go absolutely mental, and that's why I love this match. After brawling inside and outside, eventually the referee got hit with the ref bump. They go at it and the Rock hits Hogan in the sharpshooter in Canada, and the boos just rained down like it was a Hillary Duff song. Wait, where the hell did that come from? What the fuck? Is this 2004? Why am I referencing Hillary Duff? What? Anyway, the sharpshooter in Canada, boos raining down. You had some cheers, but definitely a lot of boos. The ref was down, camera flashes everywhere. Rock is screaming, Hogan screaming. He reaches for the ropes and he gets him, but the Rock pulls him back and keeps on going. Nice heel move, Rock. Nice heel move. And Hogan's tapping, but there's no ref. Hogan is tapping, but the Rock never lets go. After a good 20 seconds, the Rock finally lets go and just starts mouthing off again. The Rock looks so cocky and angry, so different than what we expected him to be in this match. He goes up to the referee and kicks him and pulls him. He's definitely not acting like the Rock we were used to during this time period. Rocky sucks. Rocky sucks. And then Rock turns around and bang, low blow by Hulk Hogan. Oh, I wonder what movie's gonna do now. I don't know, a scoop slam or something. No, rock bottom by Hogan. Rock bottom. Crowd on fire. Referee starts finally moving. 1, 2, no. Hogan is like, okay, referee, go back to being dead. I got this. He takes off his belt and starts whipping him with his belt once again. Hey man, heels gotta heal. But the Rock takes it and he gets up and bang, DDT. And then he starts whipping Hogan. He extends the belt and spits on it and starts clapping him again with the belt. And this just added more sympathy for Hogan. And then he gets Hogan and bang, rock bottom. This one was over. 1, 2, and no, Hogan starts powering out, and ladies and gentlemen, we got one of the greatest wrestling moments of all time. Hogan started hulking up and shaking his head, spazzing out like he was on crack. And at this point, man, the fans were on crack. One of the loudest moments in wrestling history. The Rock looks like he had just seen a ghost. Every single person was on their feet. The Rock punches him, but it does nothing. He's hulking up. Goosebumps, man. Please go and watch this. I wish I could include the audio in the video, but I don't want to get copyrighted. Legendary. Hogan says no, but The Rock says people's punch, but blocked. 3 punches later, Irish whip, big boo, and a leg drop. JR is losing his mind. As the leg drop hits, he just says, he be Andre the Giant with that move. Jim Ross, go. The referee counts it. 1, 2, 3, no. The Rock kicked out of the leg drop, and the crowd got even louder. So Hogan winds up and he's gonna go for another one. The Rock moves away, gets up, and bang, rock bottom. Time to pin him, right? No. He gets Hogan back up and goes for a third rock bottom. Both men down. The Rock pauses for 1 second, lets the crowd come down after the rock bottom, lets it marinate, and then hits him with one of the smoothest transitions ever. He kips up, and it's time for the people's elbow. People at this point can't help but cheer. Crowd control, folks, at its finest. It's time for the most electrifying move in sports entertainment, the people's elbow. Everybody's just jumping in the air because it's like, what the hell are we witnessing? People's elbow hits 1, 2, 3, and the fans just start cheering like no tomorrow. The Rock won them over. One word to describe it: epic. Truly a one-of-a-kind match. It was magic. One of the best matches ever. Listen, cool moves are cool, flips and stuff after 10 million finishers are cool, but at the end of the day, crowd investment is key, and they proved it here. Rock celebrates, and Hogan gets up with his old man sad look. They shake hands, and both men are back to being faces. The Rock leaves, and Hogan just standing there by himself, and out comes the NWO. Time for the old man to get beat up by his friends. They start beating him down, and of course, The Rock comes down to save the day. They clean house, they pose down together, Hulk Hogan gets his moment, and the crowd is just so happy to see this. What more can I say, man? This match is iconic, it's legendary, it's beautiful, it's special, it's why I love wrestling. This is a masterclass in all the things I mentioned: crowd control, psychology. In case you guys couldn't tell, I love this match. I love this so much that, like I said, my VHS somehow got cracked from watching it so much. I love it so much that I spent $120 on a t-shirt from this event that honestly I think is too big for me and doesn't fit, but I love it. Cody Rhodes, for what it's worth, said it's the best match of all time. It was just historic. You had everything right. The stars aligned. It was Toronto, a hot crowd in a huge building, two of the biggest stars of all time at the right time in the perfect time, and yo, they just hit out the park like it was Joe Carter in the World Series. Amazing. To cap things off here, this is what The Rock thinks of this match. Even though it doesn't matter what he... Okay, never mind. To this day, the crowd of 65,000 strong was the most electric and on fire I've ever had the privilege of performing in front of. They were ready, so were we. Hashtag childhood hero, hashtag icon versus icon, hashtag greatest of all time.